Welcome back to Real Florida Magazine.
Welcome back. Today again on the beautiful campuses of Florida Panhandle Technical College. Our guest today, Joe Taylor. Joe is the Superintendent of Schools for Washington County, Florida. Here today to talk about the brand new Kate Smith Elementary School. If you're a regular viewer of the show, you've seen Joe and myself at the school site following the progress. It looks like a building now. It's not going to be long. Looking at the fall of 2016 for the first inaugural class at the new Kate Smith Elementary School. We're going to talk to Joe about all these things and more when we come back, and we will be right back. Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest today is Joe Taylor, Superintendent of Schools for Washington County. You're a busy guy. I know there's plenty going on. For what it's worth, thanks for taking the time today.
Oh, I appreciate this. Thank you.
As I mentioned, and as we talked about in the pre-show, Joe, the most exciting piece of news in Washington County educationally is the brand new Kate Smith Elementary School. In excess of $28 million. Not too many years ago, just a pipe dream, just one of those bucket list items. Hey, we need a new elementary school. Hope that we can get one day. You, our school board, a lot of other people spent a lot of time in Tallahassee talking to people. Can you walk us through that process? You know, and you can truncate it, a thumbnail sketch of what it took with you guys hammering Tallahassee, trying to carve out our piece, or what we considered was our piece of that tax money to make this school happen.
It starts with you apply to the Department of Education and you simply tell them we have a need. DOE then sends teams out. They come in, they survey your schools, they'll send an architect of their own. They'll take a look at it. They'll say, do you need this replaced, or can you just remodel? Can you do that? So it's a very long, drawn-out process. You do that. They say, yes, you're eligible for replacement. This would be a good idea. But at that point, it's like you reboot to the second stage of this, which is then there has to be an application made to the Department of Education that's outside of that. There's a formal process that you go through in which presentations are made to DOE boards. And then at that point in time, you get ranked as a district. Now, how long does this take? Probably the first approval letter for replacement of Kate Smith was 20 years ago. But then, even after that first approval letter that you are eligible for replacement, the state looks at what's its other needs, what are other school systems, and are you going to get invited to the presentation? So at the point in time where the difference where we are at now and from 20 years ago was we were invited to make the presentation. So, and during that 20 years, there's been 4 separate surveys by DOE that says you need to replace Kate Smith Elementary. But the last time that we had done this, the funds dried up. State of Florida, the program, which is the special facilities that we're under, those funds went away and everything got stuck on the back burner.
Not too long ago, about 2005, we had the bubble burst, or lots of different phrases for it. Did you experience a hiccup there? Did Washington County see a setback because of that, or is that just something that's factored in over time as just one of those economic setbacks that's kind of formulated into that long-term plan?
That one was unexpected. That one pulled everything up short, not only for us, but the other school districts that surround us that participate under the program. As we speak right now, and we're 6 months to a year easily ahead of the others, Calhoun has broke ground on their school. Holmes County has broke ground on their school. There's 5 other districts who are now in the hopper trying to move forward into the process itself to do as far as what they're going to concern with their construction.
Yeah, and when you mention those nearby counties also looking at new facilities, would it be accurate to say that the Panhandle was a little bit behind the rest of the more metropolitan part of Florida?
The program, the special facilities, is actually designed for rural counties. So when the money's run out of there, then there's no other place for us to go. That's why we're in the program.
How old is the original Kate Smith Elementary School?
The original wings were put in 1953 and 54. There were some updates made about 58. There was a new building put in about 1980, and then a new building in about 1990.
40 to 60 years old, depending on which part of it you look at. There's been a lot of kids pass through those halls. There's been a lot of education accomplished well in that building. It's time, I would dare say, that for that new facility.
It has been time, and it has been time for the 20 years that we've talked about it. And part of it is you bring up terms like American with Disabilities Act, you bring up with equal access, Kate Smith was never designed or built with that in mind, the original Kate Smith, because those things didn't exist at the time. So now when you try to make the transitions over, it's almost, you cannot successfully, like you want to, do it at the level that's required. The other issues is when you're building something 40, 60 years old, the backbone for your technologies of what's today is not there. You don't have the ability for the communication packages. You don't have to do all of the things that it takes when you start running for fiber and cable and you're trying to get all of that, because the cost of it then becomes exorbitant.
When you drive around the existing Kate Smith campus, lots of what they jokingly call temporary classrooms, little mobile homes, probably more square footage in those than there is in the original building. I don't know that for a fact, but it looks like it to look at the facilities. And even those in pretty rough shape. This is going to bring the Washington County Elementary School system into the 21st century, truly.
It absolutely will. There's 21 portables, relocatables, modulars, temporary buildings, whatever we want to call them, on any given day that's out there on site. They're very difficult to maintain. There's safety issues when we have thunderstorms like you do in Florida in the afternoon. We have to move all those kids out of there. Tornado warnings, you bring them out, there's about 400 students that's in those 21 units. Imagine just a covey of quail being moved back and forth on those little covered walkways into the main part of the building. You lose instruction time, you lose everything that goes with it. It's borderline chaos on a good move. And so when those issues go away, then better things can happen.
Wow. And that's something we've never even considered, that weather-related chaos, as you put it. Never really even considered the fact that those all had to be vacated, and with the weather that we have here at certain times of the year, that's definitely got an impact. Have we actually experienced having to add days on to the school year because of lost time?
We haven't had to do it on the lost time because we try to break it down into manageable time blocks, get them out of there. As soon as the tornado warning goes away, you can move them back. But you lose time, you lose quality, you lose everything in the move.
We've had the fortune of spending some time on the campus of the brand new facility. One of the most poignant things that you pointed out to us during one of our surveys was the fact that that entire school, from a security point of view, can be locked down by one door, that main front entrance. Security doesn't exist at the existing Kate Smith Elementary School with all of those outbuildings, certainly. 4 foot, sometimes 3 foot, sometimes no fence around the area. Talk a little bit about that enhanced security, the sensitivity certainly on the part of the state and certainly by our families, and how this new facility is going to increase that level of security for our kids. 60
years ago when Kate Smith was built, when you look at it, you're a block off a state highway, Highway 90. You are right dead hard in the middle of a residential neighborhood. We literally have a city street that bisects our campus. All of those things, the chain link fence that you alluded to, the construction of the 1950s in which you have all of those doors leading to outside areas, uncontrolled. So when somebody gets on campus, which is as simply as either stepping over the fence or coming around or whatever, the doors that are there, that's not what it's designed for. We live in a different world than what was back then. And that's a difficult place for all to get to, but security, safety is a very top of the mind matter. The way that it is now with the street, we're going to have it's a new location that it's going to be. Buses and cars will be separated. The buses will be coming off Brickyard Road, the cars will come off South Boulevard. So those issues then of the intermingling of buses and cars are gone. There will be one single drive that will lead from Brickyard to South Boulevard, which will belong to us. We'll have a gate in between them to make certain those two separate out. But then the whole site will be chain link fenced. The pond will have its own separate chain link fence around that. The school is built that it's actually under one roof. Part of the concerns that we've talked about in the past with the board is what's going to happen to our utility bill. The fact of the matter is it's going to skyrocket. But there's some benefits to what we're doing here. As it is now, we have one solid envelope under this school. We have a roof and we have the walls. There are no outside doors. There's none of those things where you're drafting air back and forth. You get a twofold benefit. One is the utility, but more important than that, safety. Everything can be controlled. With a quick lockdown at the new facility, we'll probably involve locking down 3 doors, because the rest of them will be locked anyway. I mean, we have safety exits, we have all the things that are there. But everything is geared that you can instantly control access to that school.
Let's talk money for a minute. When I talk about Kate Smith Elementary School, the new facility, the new construction, I say $28 million or in that neighborhood. What is the actual price tag on the school?
The actual construction piece is about $25 million, and then we have about $1 million in architect. And when I say construction piece, that's site work, that's your furniture, fixtures, and equipment, that's the technology comm packages that go in there, and those are all separate. That is about $25 million all on its own. And then $1 million of architectural fees for the design. So you're talking about a $26 million package there.
Okay, and does Washington County have any skin in that game? Are they committed to some sort of payment over time?
At the end of the day, and this is very dependent on what the statutes do, when we first went into it, we were going to have about $4 million at the end of it, of our own local taxpayer money that was in the project. The state dropped our requirement as to what we have to put in locally. We still have to assess it. We're not allowed to drop, because we agreed to at the very beginning of this project that we'd levy 1.5 mil. And normally, to us at this point in time, 1.5 mil is right about $1.4 million is what it is. We have about 900,000 a mil. So you're talking about 1.4 million. They dropped that requirement in half. We still have to assess it, but now we can maintain and use it locally for our own needs within the district itself for capital items, not simple anything that we can do, but for capital items. So at the end of the day, depending on what the legislative session does, and we're still part of the legislative package, we're still third year, we're still having to monitor and maintain and make certain where we're at, we'll have about $3 million of local money in it.
We are enjoying the construction of a brand new courthouse in Washington County as well, happening at the same time as the construction for the new elementary school. A lot of sensitivity issues there, though I understand it. It's the only courthouse that has been funded by the state in recent memory. Typically, counties are held liable to provide their own courthouse facilities. In this case, there was a dire need, went through the process. At the end of the day, we are getting a new courthouse. Just recently, the courthouse committee, Washington County Committee, turned down a request for an increase in funding or increase in cost to move some walls around. And not to get into those details, but at the end of the day, the lesson there is that there's some really strong stewardship being practiced over the funding that's available. Have there been any issues so far with the elementary school in changes, in overcharges, in any changes at all in the costs of the school since start of construction?
No. The GMP, which is a guaranteed maximum price, which we go into with the construction manager, takes care of that gap. And no, we're not worried about going over that.
You have got a heck of a construction crew assembled over there. We've had the ability to talk to some of that staff, Perry McCall, some of their people. It's got to be a joy from your seat to be able to oversee broadly that construction project when you've got those kinds of people upon whom you depend and upon whom you can trust and put your faith and confidence.
All we can have is confidence in what they do. This is not something as a school district we do, and they have their name, their reputation, their business models, their plans. Everything is online, which is where you want your contractors to be. It is an absolute pleasure in dealing with them. I left here Thursday night, and when I came back Monday, and I try to swing out there several times a week just to see what's going on, they had laid 20,000 brick in those 3 days. They have about 30 to 40 bricklayers that are out there. They have their assistants, and they're moving nonstop. Within 2 to 3 weeks, they'll be dried in. All the brick, all the wall work done, roofs on, and then you just go in your own world is what you're doing internally. Probably at least 40% of the mechanical is already performed. You know, the things that you can't see from the outside, upstairs, the mezzanines. Once we go back out there, if you care to climb a ladder, I can take you up to the mezzanine and you can see two things. One, the progress of what they've done up there, and the other is the quality of the work that is going out there. The windows that are put in, the things that are done every step of the way, they very much have a very real pride in what's going on.